I'm Shailyn and I sew. In this video, I will be making Raya's costume from Raya and the Last Dragon, and I know I am about a month late because I made this costume for Halloween, went got my hair cut, and now I am in the process of moving. So in this video, you'll be seeing a whole lot of haphazard things that I've done, trying to pattern draft it to hacking a pattern, and then I even gave up on making a wrap pants pattern, so I ended up using a regular pattern from an indie pattern designer that I love, and then drafting the cape and all of that. So you will see basically a lot of my thought process all smashed into this video, so hopefully it is not too crazy and you can follow along and see what it's like to go in my head and sew something without fully planning everything. Let's get started. I initially thought I could make a bolero with set-in sleeves, so I made my own bolero, and what I did was I created the regular bolero shape with set-in sleeves, and then I marked where I wanted the sleeves. And that didn't really quite work because since it doesn't have like real sleeves, there's a lot of crinkling going on. So what I did over here on this side is I just chopped this sleeve shorter. So this is actually the same thing as this side, but I chopped the sleeve shorter thinking it would change it a little, which it did. You can see the difference here. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I said something like I'll probably redo this in the morning, and I did, kind of, and I decided to do it properly with patterns. So this is my regular bodice pattern piece that I based my bodice off of, my bolero. This is what it looked like. You can see there's one dart, and that just adds a little bit shaping for the bust, but no shaping for the waist, which is perfectly fine for Raya's bolero. It's not fitted at the waist, it's just fitted from the top until about her bust. So this is the perfect pattern piece. This is what I used to create her bolero pattern. So I will show you what I ended up using or doing. So to get from this pattern piece to here, I did a few things. So what I did in the center front was I removed an inch from the center front. I could probably get away with removing more. But I removed an inch from the center front because the bolero doesn't actually close, it just is left open. And then at the top here, I extended the top so it was more closed and closer to the neck. This one is kind of like a scoop neck pattern piece. So I just made it go up a little bit more at that neckline so it goes towards my neck closer, and then I can add a little mandarin collar to it. So that is how I did this, the neckline area. And then from there, what I did was at the bottom here, let me just open this up for you. So at the bottom here, I also added, I think it was 1.5 inches. Yeah, so I did 1.5 inches at the bottom. So this is the waistline of the original bodice. I went down 1.5 inches and then made it go at a point. So I kind of just shaped it because that's what her bolero looks like. It kind of curves, comes to a point, and then goes back up for the back. So that's how I got this basic shape. And then I noticed that there was at first I thought it was a dart right here, but she actually has a princess seam on the front. I drew the curve here for the princess seam, and then I notched it. So I drew these two lines so I knew that this is where it would meet when I create that seam. So now I have these two pieces. So to get the shaping, I've already taped it back together so you can see. To get the shaping, I cut out that dart and I closed the dart. So since I've already done that, I cut the dart and I close it. Boom. So now you can see that instead of having a dart here and having a shape on the side seam, the shaping is now in this princess seam. And you can see that because I have marked it on these two right here, that I know that that'll match up when I sew it together. So when I draw this pattern piece onto my fabric, I have to add a seam allowance, and I also have to curve this out a little bit so it doesn't have like a point right here. Now for the sleeve, I had a regular sleeve pattern that looked like this. And then her sleeve doesn't actually go all the way down. It's not a full sleeve. It's a cap sleeve. So I just drew this. So I took the notches and that's what I used in place of it. The back notches, the center, the shoulder seam notch, and then the front notch. And that's where I stopped it. I traced it, and then I kind of curved it down so it kind of looks like a football or something. So this is my cap sleeve pattern. Meet upsetty spaghetti. Upsetty spaghetti is something that I say every time someone at work is upset or acts upset. I tell them that that they're being upsetty spaghetti. So one day someone called me out on it and said that didn't make sense. So I drew them an upsetty spaghetti, brought it home, and it was sitting in the scanner where my cat scanned every single page and copied upsetty spaghetti onto about 50 pages. So I'm using scrap paper with upsetty spaghetti on there. Now with this cap sleeve, it's gonna be flat against my shoulders, and that's not what I want because her sleeve kind of sticks out from her shoulders. So I did the slash and spread method that I explained in one of my older videos. And the slash and spread method is basically drawing a bunch of lines on the regular pattern piece, like that, and then spreading it out and taping it onto another piece of that paper. So this is the regular cap sleeve, and then this is the spread out cap sleeve. So the reason for this is you're basically keeping this seam at exactly the same length that you need it to be to fit onto the bodice, while changing the shape of the sleeve. So I wanted the sleeve to flare out a little bit because it doesn't touch her shoulders. It kind of sticks out. So that's where I'm at, and I will show you what it looks like on me. So this is what it looks like. As you can tell, it fits a lot better because I used a bodice pattern, and then I did the shaping here with the princess seam that ends at the tip at the bottom, just like in the movie. I'm gonna have to fix these sleeves because I spread them out a little too much on the pattern piece, so it does go up instead of straight like there. So I'll just go back on the pattern piece and fix that. I'm going to go back on the pattern and do shaping here, and it's probably not going to have any real shaping. It's just going to have like an illusion of that because that's what it looks like in the movie. She has princess seams on the back as well. Her bolero also goes up in the back, like it's a lot shorter in the back than it is in the front. So I'm going to make this go up a little bit, and probably up here. Alright, so now that I've shown you what it looks like, I said that I was going to add a princess seam on the back and shorten the back piece as well. So to do that, I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the front pattern piece, which is drawing the princess seam, except the only difference is there's no dart for shaping, so I'm literally just making a seam, an additional seam. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just draw it with my fancy French curve. So now I can cut this out and then add seam allowance onto this pattern piece. But I also said that I wanted to shorten the back. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this pattern, this is the front, and I'm just going to follow this right here. I'm just going to follow this into the back pattern piece. And I think that's going to make it look more intentional by using the angle here. So I'm going to take this angle from the front. I'm going to follow that, and then for the center back I'm just going to curve it so it's not fully, it's not too crazy. I think I'm going to shorten it by 2 inches. And then before I cut this faux princess seam, and I call it a faux princess seam because there's no shaping. Before I cut this out, I'm just gonna mark right here again, just so I know that these 2 notches are where it's gonna line up when I put them together and sew them. This is just my notes. So that's done. I think what I did wrong with the cap sleeve is that I added, this is the center of the cap sleeve. I think what I did wrong is that I added this. I spread it in the center, and by doing that, it made it stick up more than it should. So I'm going to cut that off and tape it back closed. So I'm gonna put upsetty spaghetti back together, and this should hopefully fix that part in the middle of my sleeve where it sticks up too high. Okay, so here are the changes that I've made. First, I have shortened the back a little bit, so you can see it follows this side seam into the back and curves up, and I really like how that looks. And then second, the sleeves. So I said I was going to take that wedge out where I spread it a little bit too far right here, and I've just pinned it down on this side so you can visualize that it kind of straightens it off a little bit. So that is perfect for me. I'm not going to touch this anymore. And again, I'm just doing a faux princess seam on the back. There's no shaping involved in that princess seam. It's just a design detail that I'm going to keep from the movie to here. So I'm going to use these pattern pieces and cut it out on the real fabric. So here is the real fabric that I'm using. As you can tell, it's already textured, and even though her bolero has like raindrop patterns on it, I think this texture is good enough. I'm not going to add to it. I'm just going to use this texture to its advantage and kind of play off of that and hope it looks good enough. So this is the lining that I'm going to use. It's just brown, and then this is the real fabric on the outside, the main fabric. And the reason for lining it is because you can see that this kind of flaps around a little bit. You'll be able to see the inside of it. So I want it to look really clean on the inside, so I don't want any seams showing. Right, coming in, and I realized that mine will meet in the middle kind of like this, or it'll almost meet in the middle after seam allowance. So I'm just going to cut it in a little bit more and take this piece off, and that is, I think, where hers ends. Like right here. So I'm going to do that to my pattern piece and cut this part off and even it out, and it should work out. So here is the lining in that front piece, and here's the wedge that I'm taking out right here. I'm just gonna cut that off and it should look right. My camera died, but I didn't really do much besides pin the sleeves inside here, in between the lining and the main fabric, and then sew it down. I also sewed the front flaps together of the bolero on both sides. So here I'm just gonna flip it right sides out, and hopefully you should see the sleeves looking pretty good smashed between both layers here. If I can get my hand through. Here it is. So there's my cap sleeve. As you can see, it looks good inside and outside, as in looks good meaning there's no seam showing. So once the lining is stitched all together, you can't see the seam, which is really nice. But collar is not exactly what I wanted. It sticks up a little bit more. It's not as smooth. I think that if I did a different shape it would have worked, but it does look like it looks decent enough, honestly. Do. Oh, there it is. So here is my tube top. What I did was I gathered the side seams so it would kind of force that look of being wrapped around. And so this is unhemmed, and I've just put, basting stitches on the side so I can take this and put it on my mannequin, and I can start putting this on. So the idea is I'm going to gather this again, I'm going to put that over, and it's going to come across up and then down my back, and it's going to meet right here in the middle. And it's going to do a V in the back. There it is. So now I only have 2 pieces to do, the pants and the cape. So for her pants, I'm going to use this linen blend that I have in my stash. I bought it a while ago and I really like the color, but I didn't know what to make from it. It is a little bit lighter than I'd like for Raya's pants, but it is hard to find a good green, so I'm not going to really bother going through all the fabric stores and seeing if I could find a better match. Before I make the pattern and cut into this, I'm going to do a mock-up. So what I have here are pajamas that I made last year. Unfortunately, I do not have the pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to trace this. I'm going to fold it over at the crotch. This is the front crotch. And I'm going to trace this part. and that angle down. And then I'm obviously going to stretch the elastic so I have the waist. And for the wrap pants, what I want is, I don't want elastic, I want it to wrap around, so it has to be bigger at the waist so it covers like your hips. And you know, you're not showing a lot of skin. So that's why I'm not gonna be using like elastic. I don't want her pants to look like pajamas. So hopefully my idea for wrap pants works out. So here is what it looks like. You can see that it is wrap. And instead of doing a tie, since she doesn't have ties on her pants, I was thinking of doing snaps right here in the center and snaps in the back for the part right on the other. This part wraps first, this part wraps second, so this part I'm just gonna discreetly tie so you can't see that, and then this one I'll do snaps. So I basted the pleats together and the front looks okay. However, the back kind of wants to wrap around my butt. So I'm going to move the pleats more towards the side. Take two. I moved the pleat over. It's still doing the like U shape, but further away from the bum. So I guess it's okay. Not sure how else to fix that, adding pleats but still having it go around. Since there's no seam on the sides, I think that that's why. Okay, so I ended up actually redoing the whole pants and talking to a friend who said if I planned on using this outside of a costume, which I do, make pants that actually fit properly. So one of my favorite pattern designers, indie pattern designers, made a pant pattern, a faux wrap pant pattern, and I ended up making it. So this is what it looks like. Fits really nicely, especially in the back there. Right? And it does the flappy thing that I wanted to do. And for the bottom here, I'm thinking all I have to do is tuck it into boots, and it should look like Raya's pants. So I will link the pattern for this down below. I made a size 6. I did not do any alterations except shorten it because I am 5'4", and I think it's drafted for 5'6". So we'll link that down below, and now all I have to do is make the cape. Okay, I'm working on some ideas for the cape, and I have determined how I'm going to do the front. It's going to overlap right over left, left over right, yeah, left over right, and I'm going to put snaps in there. So snaps underneath here and snaps underneath here so it stays in place. And I did a quarter circle in the front, so if I were to do that all the way around to do the math, it would be a half circle. Now for back, for this example, I did a full circle just for the back half. And I think it's a little too flowy. Excuse my dog in the back. I think it's a little bit flowy, and it's gonna spread out like that if I move, but I'm not sure that I want that. So this looks more like a cape, and it looks like it'll wrap around fully, like around my shoulders better. And in that case, the whole thing is actually just a half circle skirt. The back is just full, and then the front will just taper from the top and then go down to, I've decided to end it at my elbows, so it'll just kind of go like this, or like across the chest and then down. I will show it when I actually do it, but that's what that looks like. I think I'm gonna go for that. It also at least on a mannequin, looks more like a superhero cape, which I think I'm going for. So this is what the pattern piece looks like overlapped. Kind of looks like that. But basically what I did was I cut a quarter circle, or I drew a quarter circle on my fabric, measured it, and what I did was at one part of the shoulder, that's 3 inches. Down at the center is 5 inches. And I just chose those numbers. I thought that looked really good on me when I put it against me. And then the length is 20 for me. Sorry. So this is 20 on the side seam. This will be the side seam. And I'm actually going to taper it, and it's going to go like this. So it'll look like it disappears into the fabric on the back. But that's the general shape. This is going to be the inside of the cape. It's already got this sort of pattern on it, and I think that's kind of pretty good for not having to try to add a pattern on it. So that's why I bought this fabric. So this is what it looks like all cut up. As you can see here, these two parts on the side here will overlap with each other on the front. And then this is where my shoulders would be. So this will go under here and snap, and then this will go over and snap. So I've sewn the lining onto the fabric on the cape. And this is the overlap portion. And this is the left side that goes over the right. So I've decided to curve it because it kind of disappears into the collar. So I've curved it right here, and I'm going to snip that off and snip all of the corners here before I flip it right side out. And then once I do that, all I have to do for the cape is add the collar and decide on if I have time to add any embellishments. So I completed the collar. As you can see, this is the part that's the half circle, and I folded it over so you can see, and then this folds over again. And what I'm going to do is to put it on really easily. I'm going to put a snap right here on the inside. It's going to snap right there. And then I'm going to put 2 snaps on this side. So I'm going to put a snap here and a snap here. So it's going to snap at that collar overlap, and then it's going to snap right here where it goes up and curves. And then once that's done, I have a week until Halloween, so I don't think I'm going to have time to embellish the collar or this neckline. But I think it looks close enough without embellishments. In the future, I might add all of the embroidery, but right now I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, I didn't record the whole process of making the boot covers, but I can show you what I did. So I saran wrapped my boots. I put my boots on, which are low, pretty low ankle boots. And then I saran wrapped the boots and my calves. I have a problem where my calves are generally too big for most boots in general, so this is probably going to be useful in the future, honestly. So I saran wrapped myself into the boots, and then I duct taped to make a pattern. It's very haphazard because I had a hard time duct taping myself, bent over and doing all those weird pretzel movements. But this is the pattern that I got. That's the one side on the outside part, and this is the other side where the zipper is gonna go. And then what I did was I cut it off. I tried to center it where I cut it, so in the front center and then the back and then where the zipper is. And I laid it flat and put it on muslin. So I cut that out with seam allowance and I came up with this. This is what it looks like all sewn up. And it fits for the most part. I just want to make this part bigger at the calves. I kind of wrapped it pretty tight on myself. Now it actually fits pretty well already, but these lines right here I drew because when I cut out my pattern, I cut it out a little crooked. So it's centered here at the toe, but then I started going off a little crooked. So I marked it straight on my pattern piece on the front and then on the back here. This is the heel. And I'm going to cut that out and do another mock-up, and then I'll put it on and show you all from there. But I'm sorry I didn't record the weird duct taping and saran wrap process, but I'll show the rest of it, or I'll try to. Okay, so here is my boot cover. Oh gosh. There's my boot cover. And I have added a little bit of space here for my calf. And it looks like it fits pretty well. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of my faux leather fabric. Hi, BC Bear. Hello, Bubba. And BC approves, so we're going to go ahead and cut this out of the main fabric, put the zipper right here. I have pinned it in place, but that's where the zipper is going to go. And I will do 2 of them. Okay? So here are the finished boot covers. As you can see, I put elastic at the bottom so it goes around like where the toes are, and then at the arch. So that hooks onto the actual boot. And since I didn't have separating zippers, what I did was I got regular zippers and I put the zipper so it zipped down from the top. And that allows me to be able to put my foot in, zip up the regular boots like that, and then zip down the boot covers. That way I can actually stuff the pants into the boots.
Now throw one in there and catch it.
Yeah, right. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching my video. I didn't really have anything in mind of how I was going to film it. I just decided I'm going to make this costume, and hopefully some of the things that I've done in this video has maybe helped you in planning your future costume, making Raya's costume, or anything at all. Maybe you were just entertained in watching me make the costume. Whatever it is, don't forget to hit like on this video and subscribe to my channel. Happy sewing!